I would love to introduce our next speaker, who's going to talk about how Black writers are gaining ground in publishing. Yes. So Tamika Newhouse is a self-made best-selling author and the CEO of AAMBC Inc., a creative agency for Black writers. She overcame the projected stigma that teen moms can't have it all by working in the radio and literary industries to soon create Delphine Publications by the age of 20. She has created a publishing empire that has housed more than 30 writers at a time, releasing nearly 300 titles as a producer and writer. She assists others in chasing their literary dreams as well, producing films, curating large events and festivals, as well as publishing books. In Tamika's short 14 years, she has released 18 books of her own. Many of her works have appeared on several bestseller lists, earning her much recognition and multiple rewards. As an inductee of San Antonio's Who's Who, a 3-time winner for Best Self-Published Author, she has gained more honors, awards, and notoriety over the years, recently adding to Ad Color nomination for Innovator of the Year. Adweek once called her the Shonda Rhimes of Black publishing in their 2020 summer issue. In 2021, she won an Urban Media Makers Film Festival Award for Best Podcast. Tamika Newhouse is proving to be a trailblazer who's creating a lane for Black creatives to be heard and respected with no signs of slowing down. So welcome, 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 Tamika. I am so happy to lead this conversation with you. And I just want to say, thank you. Thank you for trailblazing. And I mean, I consider myself a writer, and I feel like we are all born creative beings, except somehow in the system, we forget our intuitive creative power. And so, we might see that big red, markings in our English classes, and then that just, helps us go into a corner even more. So I really love that you're amplifying, the fact that we can be in this lane. So thank you so much. Now, before I roll into the questions, I would just love to hear a little bit more about yourself. I mentioned your beautiful bio, but anything else you'd like our listeners to know about you before we kick off these questions?
Well, first of all, Mariella, what a beautiful intro. That was like, wow. Even like I hear it often, but it's like when you have to sit there and listen to people talk about you, it's like, I did that. Yeah, I did that. It's kind of humbling. So I'm like, all right, this is cool. But I mean, first and foremost, I am just a girl that just loves to dream purposely. I am just a dreamer, and I'm also one of those people that just does not have no in her vocabulary. So I'm also a mother, and I'm a good friend. So those aren't in my bios, and those are really, really, important things. So that's about it.
Yes, I love that. I love that. And feel free to share more about, your personal story and your journey as we roll into these questions. I just also want to shout out that we've got a lot of live listeners, and I want you all to drop any extra questions or comments in the chat box so that I can raise that to our guest speaker's awareness. And so she can tackle that as well, because we want to hear from you. Now, clearly we are in complete awe, as you are as well. I love that. It is really humbling to hear.
I know, my cheeks hurt. I'm like, oh my God, they're talking about me. It was cool.
So we are in complete awe, and I love that you are as well, of your work and efforts. So please tell us about your venture and where the idea began, and just, a little bit about how it has progressed up until today.
What's really unique about my journey is that I had no idea that I could make my own dreams come true. So I told my mother when I was 12 that I wanted to grow up and be this famous authoress, is what I called it. And I always used to have these visions and these dreams of who I wanted to be. But as far as knowing how to do it, I thought I had to get this book deal, and someone had to like my writing and say, oh, all right, you're good, let's publish you. I thought I had to wait for that phone call. And it took me going through a lot of low points to really kind of get online and just start talking about stories I was enjoying. And this is when kind of like the beginnings of social media, sort of say. I was selling Yahoo Messenger and AOL Messenger and things like that. And so talking to people online was new, and I was excited about it. And through that form, I created an online book club. And I'm like, all right, y'all come and gather and talk about these books. And I was just reading a lot of the books that we kind of already saw on the magazine covers. And, in Essence magazine, back then we had Black Expressions, which is like this old Black catalog for Black writers. And they was like Black Power this, Black Power that. And so I only saw like the same 30 or so writers. just through those outlets. And when I started talking about all these writers on MySpace, of all places, I was introduced to writers such as myself. And I discovered they had self-published, and I did not know what that meant. And I'm like, well, what's self-publishing? Like, what does that mean? And so I took, like Google became my best friend, and I started searching, okay, what is self-publishing? And it was like a light bulb went off. Wait, I can make my own dreams come true. I can publish my own book. And I think that was like the blueprint of everything that I began to do. Once I realized that I could publish a book, I put it out. And then I said, I'm going to make my own book tour. And I did that. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to build a publishing house because I see a unique way that I can do this. So I built that. Like everything I've ever wanted, I kind of just do the research. And I said, all right, I'm going to build my own room. And then I began to invite people into this room I was building. And it kind of just blossom from there.
So beautiful. I'm having deja vu in like the most real way. I feel like we have talked before. I mean, I don't know. This is strange. I need to connect with you after this.
Now, you know what they say about deja vu? It means you're in alignment with your path. That's what they say.
Yes, I'm here with you. I love that you are giving you're highlighting the visionary behind it. So the fact that we can access our dreams and our visions, and then we have to figure out how to put that into the material world. I feel like, as Black folks, we have so much opportunity to bring in that visionary aspect to help, walk through how to heal, how to give voice to how to really be our ancestors' wildest dreams. And what better way than through storytelling? So I love that you're also highlighting, the power of, social media. I have many qualms with social media today, but I love, that
we go right, like head to head sometimes.
Yes. But I love that you could find through that the power to self-publish. And so before we even get into more of these chewy questions, for someone who's listening right now who might have some doubts, should I, am I a writer? Should I self-publish? Should I look for a publishing company? And I want to kind of, I want to encourage them to self-publish as well so that there's no censorship, so that you can, embody that power of being your own entrepreneur. What can they start doing right now if they have doubts?
Well, you know what? Publishing is easy. It's almost like following with step 1, 2, 3, 4, and just completing those steps, and boom, you got a book that's sitting on Amazon, right? And then you can go and put your book into audiobooks, and you can put your book into ebook format, but then what? So I always tell people that writing is an art form, like you're an artist. So do not put out any of your work without having a true understanding of who you are as an artist. How do you want people to receive you? What are the type of stories, or what is the art that you're putting out there to the world? And what is the goal? What is the end game? Because artistry doesn't have to make sense. And everybody's not going to like your art form as well. So before you actually step out there and do something that's really common these days, which is taking your creativity into your own hands. Like everybody's independent these days. So before you go out and do that, who are you first, and how will you stand out amongst the rest? What is your path? What should people expect of your stories? How are you going to, look and feel, and how are you going to speak? Like, who are you? That's what I would ask them to really begin to understand that part first before they begin to step into this journey of entrepreneurship, because putting out a book is business. That has nothing to do with the art.
Yes. I love that. Thank you for highlighting that. That self-awareness piece. I love speaking about the importance of emotional intelligence at home, at work, and at play. And the foundation, the core of that is self-awareness. So it's like, if you got something to share, it's coming from, the inside. It's not coming from trying to fit into popular culture or, being pressured by social norms. It's coming from you. And then you decide if you want to share it or not. So I just really appreciate that balanced perspective. And actually, I want to dive in a little deeper here. So rolling to the next question. The publishing world, as we talked about, is incredibly nuanced. And for those who may not know, can you speak about some of the disparities Black creatives face when immersed in the writing and publishing processes? And then I have a follow-up question for that.
Well, this was the space that I really wanted to kind of bridge the gap for when I first started to recognize what I was doing. Because at first, when I started publishing and producing events and then creating experiences around our stories, I just wanted people to come out and buy these books and meet these writers. But then I didn't really realize that I was activating vision. I was activating relationships. I was activating purpose for some people. And they began to kind of bridge those gaps in their own journeys. So when it comes to just kind of understanding that space, I had to kind of get an understanding of what I was doing first. I done lost my thought. What was the question?
No worries, no worries. It's so
It was such an
how,
impact question.
yes, yes. So can you speak about some of the disparities of Black creative space? That's the question, but then
that was the question, right? So that was why I was getting to the point of that. So they thought that our stories were not worth reading. There were also genres that they did not even respect. Like there weren't even categories of being recognized for the stories that we were putting out. But you have to really think about just the power of us being able to tell our own stories, and now we get to profit from it. So there was always this disconnect of making us important, which is interesting because when it comes to Black folks, you know, and not negating from any other demographic, but we are the world influencer. We have influenced every single continent and race, creed, from every single art form to, you know, how even science and medicine, we have always been that to influence, you know, the world and the masses in every way possible. And I thought that it was very sad that when it came to books, Black stories, we were not being recognized like our other counterparts of other different races. We weren't getting on the cover of magazines. Our books weren't being turned into films. We weren't getting large book deals. There's still a large gap for Black writers. We don't even get the signing bonuses that our other demographics are receiving. And now we're still trying to close that gap. And then for me, for over 10 years now, my work has been about elevating those voices and putting them on platforms where else nobody else will be able to see them. So I will curate these events and curate these festivals, and I will publish these books and put them out there, and I will find unique ways to get them into the hands of the people. So that's basically what we kind of were facing a lot then when I first started. But now it's a lot more easier for us to get our foot into the door. It's a lot more easier for us to get that recognition, to also get our content into film, into television, to get our books and sitting on the bookstores. And a lot more doors have opened, but when it still comes to that gap, when it comes to publishing contracts, we're still not that closed in on that. They're still not paying us our worth.
Yes, preach it. And yes, I mean, I just got one word, jazz. And how has that influenced the world? And of course, we can open up a ton of Pandora box
rhythm, drums, beats, yeah. Like we can go on and on and on. So yeah,
and it's really frustrating. We are so amazing. Right? Well, it's that empowerment, right, and that recognition. And I wish that it were, you know, more in our education systems. You know, I'm finding things out now. When I went to Spelman College for a year, and I mean, I had to take this African diaspora in the world course that you have to take to graduate, and I was like, everyone in the world should be taking this, because this is the B side of history. So to your point about storytelling, it's like, okay, people in the world want to consume the fruit of what Black folks have been able to labor, based on oppression, based on, you know, being marginalized. But they don't want to hear the whole story. They don't want to go to the root of it. And those stories are beautiful. I mean, they are walking stories. And so to not acknowledge the written word, it's a big conundrum. So I appreciate you trying to close that gap. And I just want to I want to dive into that question just a little more. So what are some other services or examples that you offer Black creatives to make your organization different?
Oh, wow. So to make my organization different, I always, I have these virtual conversations that I've been doing maybe since 2010. And those are now phasing out into physical environments. To even now that my nonprofit is now opening up a brick and mortar location in Atlanta to kind of push this narrative of us being the main act as far as entertainment. So you know how you'll go to a concert hall and you're listening to music and things like that, but we don't really have that element for us. And so we're going to continue creating that unique approach to making reading fun, making it engaging, and then having conversations around their writing. Not technically, okay, so what's your book about? Oh, okay, so why did you write this character? And, you know, so we're doing those deep dives, almost like a live masterclass is what I really offer people that connect with my organization. It makes reading and the conversations way more engaging, way more memorable, way more impactful. And that's really what I'm about. I want you to get this book, but I also want you to feel like you got something from this experience. experience. And now you have these long friended or lifelong relationships now that you're emerging and building. So I know that for a fact that people kind of feel that when they come to my festivals or to my writers conferences, because I'm very intentional with that. But then I'm also, talking to people about their journeys. I'm doing one-on-ones, kind of guiding people and helping them find their path versus offering up a generic blueprint on how to get it done. So I'm talking to people one-on-one and kind of navigating them through their space. And then I do have this media company where like writers, they're sometimes disconnected to the fact that they are an artist, right? And so when they put this book out, they realized, hey, no one is going to go click on my book. How do I get them to know that my book is out? And so I have this media company where I help them make it make sense. Like we help you discover your brand, your voice, your image, your style, what type of events and things you want to do. Sometimes, they don't know how to put together their bios, but just getting that basics of being an artist, getting that package together for them. I also do those things too.
So good, so good. So, I mean, and it makes so much sense because you're coming at it from a holistic perspective. And, especially, I mean, unless you come from a really privileged place, which unfortunately 9 times out of 10, we don't. And so we have to have those skills. We have to know how to market ourselves in this, consumer landscape, and to be proud of that and to not try to repeat and fit into a pop vulture. Well, that came out. I meant to say pop culture bubble, but I said pop vulture, which I think is also resonates. It makes a lot
of sense. I'm following you. Yeah, it's people that you can kind of really just get lost and get very discouraged because people are sometimes, and if you're going to be motivated by money, this is just not the direction or the path. Perhaps you should seek a publisher. But even sometimes then, authors or writers forget that a publisher is like a record label. They are investing in you. They believe in your work, but you're also an investment, meaning they need to recoup their monies back. Meaning, like if you were on a record label, you have concerts and interviews and meet and greets with fans and things that you have to do. It's the same process when you have a publishing deal. So you have to really have an understanding of who you are. It really makes it way more easier. It would take down the anxiety and the pressure because honestly, you are the most unique thing that you could ever package. There's no other one in the world that is you. Like that's the $1 million bet. You.
Yes. And I've been blessed with the spirit of Prince just now as you're speaking, because he's a huge example of what it's like. Okay, you give all yourself to it. Like, I'm not trying to knock publishing companies, but unfortunately there's a bad rap, on especially monopolizing. Let's talk about Black culture and storytelling or music or something like that. So, Prince had to change his name to the artist formerly known as Prince. That was a symbol because of just the nonsense that happens in the industry. So I want to challenge that. Like, you said that it's not a way to make money. Why not? When the world is consuming our story, why not? Yep. So I'm throwing the challenge out to everyone listening now. Why not? How can we change that? How can we liberate that? How can we be empowered? Fight with financial wellness, with mental wellness, because I think it also is very healthy, a healthy routine to release through writing, whether you decide to publish it or not. I mean, you can speak to that, I know. So, all right, that was Prince coming through.
Hey, Prince, we feel you.
All right, let's roll to this next question. By the way, if you've got questions and you're listening live, throw those in the chat box. I don't want to hog the mic, but I'm just happy to speak with our guest speaker today. So I'm going to go through some more questions here. So as someone who has started young and fresh in the publishing industry to being called the Shonda Rhimes of Black publishing, tell us about the challenges you faced and if there were any specific moments that reinstated your passion for making the publishing industry more inclusive.
You know what, the challenges that I faced was I was very young when I got started. I was 20 years old when I wrote my first book, The Ultimate No-No, which went on to be like this best-selling book. I ended up getting a book deal without an agent because of what I was doing independently. And I was just hungry. And I was somewhere constantly booking flights, doing book signings, being my own, PR and booking agent. Like I was just really, really aggressive. And sometimes it's not going to be received so well for folks, that's already in the space that you're trying to get into. So you're going to come across people like that think that, you think you all that, where you think you come from. And then I'm very country. So when I used to talk and stuff, like I would just be fire at the mouth and very country with it. So either you love me or you didn't. And I was very young, didn't really experience life a lot. So as far as me caring, having that candor, like I've calmed down a lot over the years. But coming out, I had to realize that, hey, I have to learn how to adjust myself for, different rooms, different crowds. Be it like they say, read the room, basically, like really knowing my surroundings.
And you're not speaking of, just to be clear, I mean, you're not necessarily, maybe you are a little bit because we all have to go through this, but you're not speaking of code switching, right? You're speaking of like,
nah.
Right.
I don't even know. I never code switch with us. Never. So I don't even know how to do it. Girl, no. So, but I get it. I'm glad that you brought that up. But no, not code switching, just like the tone, your body language, like just feeling the energy that's being given to you. You wouldn't technically speak to the editor of the publishing company of like the largest 5 publishing house in New York the same that you would maybe the president of the United States. Like it's just different candor that you would use. And so I had to really learn how to do that. And through my success, or as they say, as you climb in the levels that you travel to, they say new levels, new devils. I mean, I'm happy. I want everybody to win. And I just kept saying yes too many times. I had to learn that everything doesn't deserve a yes. You don't have to work on every great idea, prioritize your ideas. And I also had to learn to forgive and let go some of that anger and bitterness, because it will sit in you, and then it will alter your focus. Sometimes it will shift your direction, because you have to be a completely healed, happy, sometimes individual for you to be able to progress to your higher self. And so I had to really learn like a lot of holistic ways and kind of work on myself spiritually and emotionally to say, hey, I need this part of me to be good so I can have longevity in business, have longevity in my goals. Because if my brain is not good, if my happiness isn't balanced, if I'm not taking care of myself physically, it don't really matter what I'm trying to obtain physically or materially. I ain't gonna be here. I'm not going to enjoy it, or whatever the case may be. Whatever goal that I conquer, I'm still going to feel like something is missing. So I had to take a step back, be purposely single as well, reprioritize my life, and figure out what was important, and what really made sense that would lead to my overall goal. So that's what I would. That's kind of what I learned over the years, and I have to get over the years. Your brain, all this, you got to be right. You got to let go of your stinking thinking. Even if you're not religious, but having conversations and speaking positive words over your life. I'm going to have a great day. Looking in the mirror and saying, you got this, encouraging yourself, like speak life into yourself, speak love into yourself, and have an understanding of who it is that you are and how you need to be loved, how you need to receive love, how you need to give out love. Knowing all of these things makes a great you, a great healthy you that can dream purposely out loud and not falter. So that's
yes, and that's gonna no, of course. Thank you so much for going deep there, and of course that's gonna influence the work that you put out, whatever that may be, whether it's the conversation or the written word or something like that. So I really appreciate you being transparent and sharing your struggle with us, because I know that you're not alone in that. And actually, there's been just an overwhelming echo during the summit yesterday and today on the importance of mental health, making sure that we are good first, and that we are creating our boundaries to protect ourselves and to, give ourselves positive affirmations so that we can be the change we want to see, right? And not be affected by all the noise. So thank you for that. I have some questions that are coming up in the chat. Joseph writes, what has been your inspiration and force behind your artistic work?
Oh, my inspiration. I'm not going front. I don't like for people to tell me what to do. I like to have control in my day. I have really spoiled myself. I haven't worked a job since I was 23. And that kind of keeps me motivated to figure out how to continue to reinvent myself, budget accordingly. And that's still a work in process. Yeah, I'm a Gemini, so that can switch up quick. But just being more responsible to where I could continue to have control in my day and live out the days like I want to. And that honestly is my motivation. I know some people may say, memory of such and such, or these for my kids. No, I want to be happy. I want to have, a beautiful existence. I want to remember my days. I want to enjoy my days, and I want to have control over my days. And that does not mean clocking into somebody's else, clock to help them build their stuff. That's my motivation.
I love that independence, that self-empowerment. Yeah. You've been speaking all this throughout, so it makes a lot of sense that has been your driving force and your inspiration. And I know that people needed to see this and hear this today. I told you I felt like I had some deja vu, so clearly I also needed to hear this and see you. So thank you so much. We've got about 1 minute left. How can people connect with you when we finish this conversation? Because I know you're working on a lot of beautiful things. So even if you want to shout out something that you have coming up, but just remind us how we can connect with you.
Yes, well, I'm easy to find because everything is my name. As you see in the handle on my screen, it's Tamika Newhouse on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook is Boss Lady Tamika. Then I have a memoir podcast, which is called Traces of Mika, Mika. And it's 2 seasons of this memoir. I'm going to season 3, but it's unscripted conversations that I have with friends, family, and also other writers such as myself. And it's called Traces of Mika, and it's Traces of Mika on all social media platforms, as well as on YouTube. And then my literary arts festival, which is called Black Writers Weekend, it's going to be happening August 22 in Atlanta, Georgia. So that's blackwritersweekend.com, party, socials, book signings, activations, live masterclasses, all that beautiful stuff. So if you guys need some encouragement and some love, hit me in a DM. Literally, I will answer if you, on your straight and narrow. But yes, hit me up on social media. And thank you all so much for this opportunity. Y'all keep dreaming. Love on yourselves. Thank you.
Yes.